Hey, we're call the Commissioner McCusker.
Windows emergency. As soon as I'm responding. What you get here?
Okay, I think we are still recording, so you may proceed. Just keep going.
Okay, Commissioner Chung, here. We have a point. Do we have anyone online for public expression? Okay, all right, so we'll move on. The minutes from the last meeting. Does everybody get a chance to review, and does anybody have a motion to approve?
So move.
Second. And second, all in favor? Aye. All opposed? The minutes have passed. So Commissioner McCusker is not here to provide the update on the fire foundation. However, I have some things that I can talk about. I will save those for the commissioner report at the end. But does anybody else have anything else related to the foundation? Okay. 150th anniversary.
Two events coming up, 9/11. I remember it's tomorrow, 0700, 06:58 hours at Station 54.
Mhm.
And then on the 11th of October, we have a joint 150th anniversary / open house. It'll be at Station 51. Hours TBA, so Thomas, or it was
Tentatively, probably 11 to 2, but we are meeting with the police department tomorrow because they have committed to jointly holding an open house. So both the police and fire will be doing an open house.
I spoke to Chief Hatfield, and we're gonna be doing EMS showcase and a possible auto accident scenario where there's extrication involved, and then transport and transfer care to paramedics and what they look for. So
What time is that on the 11th?
it's either gonna be 10 to 1 or 11 to 2, still TBA.
As soon as we have that, we'll share that with the
Will we have
Commissioner.
a brochure?
Yeah, we'll-
get a
we'll-
e-flyer out to
Yep.
everyone. So those are the two events.
It's going to be pretty similar to the 150th open house that we had done last December. So
At 51.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Great, anything else?
That's it.
Okay, were there any submissions for news media articles? I'm not sure I saw any attached. the agenda.
Did you send me one? No, you did not.
I-
Oh, you had your website, sorry, but you did send something, but no, we did not.
Like 4 last month. but-
Yeah, we did not. We did not. I would add that badge pitting ceremony is upcoming. If you want.
Badge pinning ceremony is going to be on Friday, September 26th. It's a celebration of honoring promotions and appointments. And
Is that also at City Hall? Like the
yeah,
last one?
chambers,
Yeah,
chambers of
I
city.
think it's a Friday, right?
That is correct. It's a Friday. So it's a great celebration it's a great celebration for their families.
Yeah. And where's it after the Elks Lodge? I think. Good, okay, let's, we're rolling through the agenda, so let's go into the commissioner reports.
Just a couple of things, live things, kind of what I got to attend the big fire in the Canal District, where I got to see Santa Fe Fire in action with all the other fire Geez, it was early in the morning, so I was on my way into the city and I saw the smoke and went there just to watch, and I watched these guys work, and it was amazing, man. With the stuff that how they interacted and interacted with the community, making people, I mean, people were just in a sense of disbelief, and really, you know, how immediate displacement scares everybody. Fire, CHP, all, you know, Southern Marin, all Nevada was there. It was interesting for a fire commission just to watch the interaction of how these guys work seamlessly to get that thing put out and not destroy any other. It was, you know, from an insurance perspective, I looked at that going, wow, they built it with like, you know, fuel underneath it, a tuck under, and then they built it with an A-frame like a campfire. And so it was designed for that. And then other than that, I happened to run into these gentlemen putting out another fire near my house just the other day, a big older non-sprinklered wood frame structure that looked like was partially under construction, that had been under construction for many years. You know, you would typically expect to find somebody that's got paint or something went wrong in there, electrical went wrong, and that thing is burning like a torch. Again, just upper, it's in hot shot, right?
Was that the Victorian?
Yeah, yeah. And again, just watching them work seamlessly, again, like this is, you know, even though it was to the public, me, it was like, wow, this thing's just out of control. For them, it's like totally under control, right? It may be a fire out of control, but the way they were working, it was very impressive. And then, the last thing that did was over the weekend, because John prompted me, I went out to Ember Stomp. And Ember Stomp was great. I mean, they had a lot of, they had everybody there. All the fire departments were there. The fire commission was represented, for San Rafael Fire. They had fire mitigation crew there, and we bought them lunch, or I bought them lunch. And as John said, we go, and so they were very happy about that. They're like, "Who are you?" I go, "We're the fire commission."
Yeah.
You know, and so we did that, and just the amount of interest that the community had. It was hot out there, right? There was no shade, so it was tough. I would love to see, you know, maybe a more friendly environment, because there was such valuable information that the public could gather from that. But so that's kind of what I've been up to, traveling around following these guys to fires and the Ember Stomp. And other than that, David, I don't have any particular reports.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Broker?
Actually, nothing relative to the commission. I spent the entire month rebuilding the kitchen. So I've been in hiding.
I hope it's up to par.
Oh, it is, indeed, absolutely.
Commissioner Chang?
Nothing reported on what I mentioned, a couple of ride-alongs, so it was good to spend some time with Chief Bernard and down at 54 and 57. It's good. A lot of enthusiastic and talented young people.
You did 2 different
I
ride-alongs?
think I did 2 or 3. Yeah.
Okay.
But
Any
it's a very, no, I mean, just talking to personnel, the chief will agree, we have a very young department, but the quality of people we have are very good.
Commissioner Wendell?
Yeah, I'm going to ride along. Bernard. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, that's about it. I've got some pictures here. I think that one was a campfire from my backyard. It's
That's wow.
That's about it.
Be close to home.
Yeah, I had to notify. But it was a major fire.
Yeah. Out of the way.
I sent it to Stan and fire. I was there taking pictures. And
Yeah, is there wait times to maybe pop an email out to us or alert us if there is a significant fire like that? Just-
Yeah, I'll talk with the fire chiefs. I know that there's usually a protocol for notifying certain individuals, and so we'll make sure that that was there. That they used to do that, right? Did they used to? Okay, we'll add that to the.
Yeah.
Oh,
Um, all right, for my report, I will also call the Canal Fire and College Chief Senate because I watched the press conference afterwards, and I thought you did an amazing job, and it was picked up on some of the news media outlets as well.
Thank you.
That was a huge moment, and Quinn as well did a fantastic job. I watched that and I just felt proud watching the two of you and what an outstanding job you did representing the city, but also just informing the public with what they needed to, like, people were curious about it. It's so visible, so many of us, that's a really important service. So kudos to you for that. And then certainly to the team's effectiveness and responding to that. Now, were we using both the fireboat and the drone?
Yes.
Yeah. It's a very nice color for the foundation. Right. Let's see, one other thing too is on Thomas, that I'm right by Station 55, so I see the demonstration garden area in front, and I'd encourage any of you, if you're in the neighborhood, take a look at it. It's
I was there.
impressive.
I stopped, sat there for a while.
Yeah, oh, it's
I
great.
was running by and I went over. It's great.
Yeah, it's such a beautiful setting to be running water too, so. But just had a hardscape at home and had a flexible space, that's really interesting. And I think, Thomas, that the memorial will be put in place at some point.
Yeah, we have a group working on that for fallen firefighters in Central.
Good. So for the things on the foundation, I've been working, I think I mentioned at the last commission meeting, so Carrie, who is the new chair of the Fire Foundation, is coming with a huge amount of energy, and so we've had a couple of meetings now. One was just about 2 weeks ago, and then there's somebody named Anna who's a volunteer working with her to help with some of the things that she's doing with the foundation. The thing that I've been working with them on is a redesign of the website. And so that's kind of been, it's taken me a couple of months, and I think we're pretty close to it. There's a huge opportunity for us to use some of the photos, and I was pulling from Larry Wackham's Fire, I think we call it Fire 50, his website. And any other photos or videos that we have are really helpful in just generating interest on the website. And certainly there's a huge call for donations as well, because it's what the foundation's all about. But also demonstrating some of the things like the drone, the fire belt, the heat shields, I think, and the boots and some of the other things, and explaining how not all of that is funded through the city budget. So donations to the Fire Foundation for that. So it will go through a few more reviews. I think we can send out, can we send out the links so everybody? Everybody can, it's staged on, I just did it on a platform that I set it up with, so you all can check it out. And if you have any comments, like, I've never done this before, so I have no pride of authorship, and if you have ideas for ways that you think they can be improved.
How were you accessing Larry's photos?
I'm just pulling them straight off his website.
Okay,
He's got a public website.
there is a hard drive in storage at headquarters with everything.
Oh,
in the
right.
shop.
Okay, there's a lot online. I'm assuming you probably found everything online. In fact, there was one thing.
Well,
that I
it's
asked.
a 4 terabyte storage,
Wow.
and half of it is photo.
I might take you up on that then, because those are probably high resolution.
Thomas, you know where that is?
I think they're in my desk drawer,
It's,
safely kept. Did you give them to me or Larry did?
well,
You gave them
I gave it to you.
to me,
Larry
yes.
gave-
It's still in a Ziploc bag with USB.
Yeah.
Yep, I have that. More safely in my
Yeah.
office.
Okay, yeah, that'd be great, because
Okay.
some of the photos I have on there right now
Sure.
are at super high brightness.
Right.
and It's good, but,
Direct.
okay.
And
Great, great.
we've been getting good drone footage too of incidents, so we
That
can
would be
get
amazing, because then we can
that
take
too.
that back to, here's what your donors are supporting.
Yep.
And are there any legal issues with using those on the website?
No, they're public record. Everything we do is public record, as long as there's not any health or other legal reasons we can't share it. I mean, anyone can actually just put in a public records request for anything that we produce, so no, we can they're huge files though, because it shoots in like 4K or something, so
Okay.
again, we'll need to kind of decide how to
Figure out
how to get that to you.
Okay, yeah, I might be, well, we can talk about it offline, but I might be the solution to it. Great, so we'll be rolling that out and comments welcome before it goes live. The other thing from the foundation is there's another event at Andy's. This is happening on the 12th, so that's really close to the open house. But that's a Sunday, it's at 6 p.m. And the Fire Foundation is co-sponsoring this, so Andy does concerts at the Andy's Loch Lomond location up by Station 55. I think that's it. That's right, so that was attached to the agenda. Okay, great, so hopefully folks can be there, and if the department can push it out on social channels too, that would be great. And hopefully we'll have the website ready to go in time for that. We'll see. I think the foundation will have some handouts and some other things too. Okay, and then the final thing is just thinking about we love bringing in our guests, and I think it's worked really well when we've had some of the previous guests. And typically we've done that when we meet at the Public Safety Center. So one of the things that we talked about is, who might be on the list next, and I think we've talked about somebody from the Water District coming in. Yeah. I'm not sure if that.
They have been, let's just say slow to respond.
Okay. All right. Yeah, we've seen them out in the Station 55 area because they're doing some pipe replacement. Yeah, yeah.
It's part of the.
Okay, so that could be one. Another could be the safety, because I think that's been of interest. I'm happy to I don't have any contacts there, so I'm happy to reach out, or if that comes from the department, whichever.
Yeah.
Okay, how do others feel? Are there any folks we could learn from the same way that we had Chief Hatfield in was at the last meeting?
I have a couple of property underwriters that underwrite cities and communities, if you guys are interested. Michelle, Melissa Morales and Charlotte Stone have agreed to do that for us.
All right, okay. Would that be?
30 minutes to just say, hey, look, at this is how, if we were to underwrite the city of San Rafael, this is exactly what we're gonna look at. We're gonna pull the PMLs. They'll run through the ABCs in 15-20 minutes. They're super talented. They're like,
Brought in the speaker a few months ago.
yeah, Susan,
Really.
yeah, so these women are very similar.
Okay. All right, so maybe Thomas, we can coordinate that and determine who might make sense for the next one, and then we'll just, if it doesn't work for next month. We 2 months later.
Yeah, I had asked them, but I wanted that up with you guys.
Okay, all right. Sounds good, so that's it for me. So Chief's report.
I'll let you. Oh, you go first? Okay, well, guess what I'm gonna do? With the first item in the chief's report is the 1517 Fifth Avenue fire, which Chief Lamar was an incident commander, so I'm gonna defer to him to just give you a brief overview of that.
Yeah, so just kind of going back to the subject of the drone footage, we got really good drone footage. 1517 Avenue being right down the street from Paulson to Center. Engine 51 was there very, very rapidly. At the next unit to arrive, was the drone. That was coming out of the Public Safety Center. It's a very fast moving fire that was in a 3-story Victorian, which is 3rd story, the attics that was did not have a big ceiling, so it's part of the fire spread so quickly. Also a very short day, so very fast spreading fire, very aggressive fire. He did an outstanding job as far as getting there. Putting a tip on it. We did have one firefighter with some burns on that, but he's back at work. So, let's see, I'm trying to.
Was the ignition source different?
Yeah, so we had good interviews with the property owner, so the property is there's 5 apartments that basically between the carriage house and the rear, had 2 apartments that Victorian had been cut up into 3 different units. The only unit that was occupied was the first floor, where the owners were living. And they were in the process of doing a remodel. Apparently this has been a remodel, I think, for quite some time. And it was, place was under construction, but the last time I did the inspection, I was by 8. So, so we got good witness from the property owner. It basically, it sounded like they were doing some painting. And then you say, that was our sort of technician.
And then the role of the drone, so does it just help with the tactics then, having that aerial view and then you can deploy differently?
Well, it helps to, I mean, we're still kind of learning how to set this up. So I didn't have the footage of the drone within my vehicle at the time, but that's something that, you know, we're looking to have installed. I think we're just about there to where we can have that footage on the drone, just because it does give you another larger area perspective in terms of what's going on.
It's like you see
Picture
vehicle.
Yes, so we'll be able to have that right. But the other thing that's been really good with the drone is that we're going back and using the capabilities with thermal imaging and everything else that does, and being able to identify where exactly it was burning and what was going on, and even doing the sequence of events, especially when the drone goes better back quick incident, because we can actually watch the fire unfold and go on. We were at the drone is actually how we fought the roof collapse, you know, because it just wasn't very visible from the street, but we did have a roof collapse during that. That was caught by the drone, and we were able to go back and be able to kind of reconstruct what happened. So as far as understanding how that fire. It's been a great tool.
So the ignition source, so that they were peeling paint with a torch, and so no one was present when it ignited, or were they present when it ignited?
They were present, they had, he had been working outside. Worked for a while, took a break, went inside, took a nap, and they woke up to this smoke alarms going off. Hearing a pop outside.
Right, so the wood just continues to sit.
The other part of that, you know, again, the testament to our crew was that, I was out there the next morning and we turned the property back over. The property owner, apparently they had an art collection that was very important to them. I don't know what its value was, but they were very, very pleased that when they came in that morning, that they found all of their salvage covers that did no damage. Lucky.
Wow. How did you guys know to do that?
It was just knowing them.
Right, but you identified that that's.
I didn't know that specifically there was artwork near, but it was just one of the assignments that we made during the course of operations. There were a couple companies available like that. There was some salvage covers.
Salvage and property preservation is one of the steps
Yeah,
in the firefighting plans, obviously towards the end, but trying to preserve whatever property is salvageable to prevent further damage from smoke or water is one of our objectives.
interesting, that's a great find.
A question. Just before we probably were this, we were using terminal side. Are we still doing that?
Yeah, our thermal imaging capabilities have expanded. We have thermal imaging cameras on all the engines, but we now also have smaller thermal imaging equipment that's on all firefighters. So each SCBA abiding position has a small camera that they can use for situational awareness, so that they can use that.
Is that when we get some of the video?
Pretty soon it'll be in a here. No, that's a lot of those types of active shots, a lot of well, I shouldn't say a lot, but a number of the firefighters have games that are new. Where they're getting a lot of those first person point. Which is also something that we'll go back and we have to have some.
So following along that, on the next page, page 2, it's just a summary of the 516 Canal Street update. We were on scene for a total of 8 days at that incident. Never in my career have I been on a scene for 8 days. We would leave at night and the property would be under the control of the PD. We never relinquished control. We always had either police or fire on scene. And the reason for that was the fact that this was a very unusual fire. And we were very concerned about doing everything possible to locate the cause of origin. And that took 8 days because unfortunately, it became a very difficult process to attempt to find the cause of origin. The investigation is ongoing. It's now kind of in the hands of law enforcement and also ATF. They're doing forensic analysis. Multiple samples were taken from the site. Evidence was collected. And so now it's the kind of the scientific side of the investigation. But the on-scene investigation took 8 days. We released the property 1 week later. We released this. We released the scene. We opened the street, and we're also very grateful to the apartment building owner across the street who allowed us to use their parking lot for our incident command post. The police department, as some of the commissioners saw who stopped by, the police department, along with fire, put up a very elaborate incident command post, multiple tents, tables, chairs, generators, food support, set up just basically everything you needed for office use. And we would have a morning briefing at 9 a.m. We'd have another briefing at 5 p.m. The scene would be shut down, turned over to law enforcement for security. It would resume the next morning at between 8 and 9 with another briefing. And last the entire day. Again, I've never been in an incident like that before. It was very enlightening, very interesting. I'm grateful to our law enforcement partners. They played a critical role. The community, I'm grateful to the community for being so supportive of us. Understanding that we needed to keep the road closed for that long was obviously a tremendous inconvenience for several of the apartment buildings in the immediate area. Not only the impact of the fire, but then the fact that we had the road closed and one parking lot basically shut down. A lot of people in good moods. So everybody was very supportive. So the investigation could take up to 6 months. Hoping that, something conclusive comes from it. I was personally hoping that during the course of the week we were there, something would just present itself. A witness would come forward. Somebody would come forward with a statement such as, my ex said he was going to come back someday and burn this place down. Something, some video of somebody running away from the scene, a suspicious vehicle, a smoking gun in the rubble. Nothing. A lot of obvious, possible ignition sources were pretty much ruled out. Electric bikes, e-bikes. Possibly suspected that maybe there was a commercial cooking operation taking place in one of the apartments. We've had that happen before, where a woman was operating a catering business out of her apartment. Large pots, pans, had multiple pots of cooking oil, knocked them over, set the apartment on fire, and she ended up passing away in the Gersville Park area 7 or 8 years ago. So I thought possibly it was some sort of a commercial or catering, commercial kitchen or catering business. Couldn't find any evidence of that. So there just wasn't anything obvious that presented itself. The fire, I think everybody would agree, traveled so quickly and so completely that it was just out of the ordinary fire. You would suspect it maybe in a heavy, like a Santa Ana type wind event, where it just was being pushed. There wasn't any wind that morning. It was morning, there was noise.
Lucky for the other building.
Yes, yeah, the building, if you were looking at the fire building on the left side, 4-story building, the only reason I believe that building did not catch fire is because it was stuck outside it. but you can see where it was scorched. A lot of the wood on the balconies was scorched, so windows were broken due to the heat. So it was close to being, just a much more serious fire than it actually was. Interesting that this particular complex was two separate buildings on actually two separate properties, both owned by the same property owner, connected by a wooden stairway in the middle. That wooden stairway was fully involved very early in the fire that just not only enabled it to travel quickly to the adjoining building, but prevented escape for many people who had to jump the windows, or unfortunately, two people who weren't able to.
There's one staircase. That was it.
There was some side stairways too for some of the units,
Yeah.
but the primary staircase, which was wood, on a wood building, just really promoted fire spread, but it just still was very unusual, the intensity of that fire. There was no delay in response. There was no problem with water supply. Obviously, a wide, flat streets, you would just expect like maybe an extended ETA, or maybe at the end of a long, windy, narrow road, where it would take us several minutes to get there, but that wasn't the case at all. 3 fire stations within about a mile of that property, immediate response. There were no other engines like tied up in other calls, so very unusual. So we're hoping that something conclusive comes of it, especially since 2 people perished.
Can you describe then how we deploy for that? So was it 51, 52, 54, all came in 55 with the boat?
Yeah, so wasn't on duty, so probably what I do know is, so it was our normal first alarm response, but that was upgraded very quickly to the second response. Due to circumstances, Medic 55 was dispatched as an ambulance. So the remaining 2 persons from 55 was able to get to the boat. We were sent another engine to help them staff the boat, and so that's how we were able to get the fireboat in service and fly one backside. Pretty much this was every Centerville resource was all on deck and then some, as we saw, especially as the incident continued to increase. Going beyond, as she said, and we were there for a total of 8 days, and so the incident after the fire factor expanded track based upon what the incident were. Beyond our investigation, we also had to do recovery of 2 missing individuals that we needed to try to locate. And so the incident would expand and contract based upon where we were and looking for people. So some of the initial efforts were trying to return what property we could to people. So one of the first priorities was getting the car and things out of there, which gave us more space to work and returning property to them. That was literally the only thing that they had left. So it was a priority for us to get that back as quickly as we could. So that was one of the things that we dealt with from the second day of the incident. The recovery, we recovered 1 victim on the second day. Again, we ended up using some of our water resources for that, and bringing the person like jet ski to help us with the recovery. That happened on the backside of the building on the canal side. We were involved in assisting the Rankin County Fire Investigation Team in terms of trying to narrow down, figure out where the second victim was. We ran into some problems with building stability, so we ended up having to reach out to Rankin County USAR, brought in we worked with task force, we went to assist with just the handwork that was done, but with that task force times building engineers, specialists in terms of going shoring, being able to figure out what shoring needs to be done so that we're operating in a safe space. So there's a lot of people that were keen to win during that. There was for a couple of days we had dogs out of some FEMA task forces. So we had a dog team out of FEMA Task Force 3, which was down in San Mateo County. We had a dog team out of FEMA Task Force 4 from Oakland. They had actually just recently gotten back from Texas when we had requested them. So they were involved with helping us with doing searches as well. And then we found, I believe it was Monday, located my days kind of all ran together there, so Monday was the day that we located the second victim. And that was located by McPhillips, the regional task force team, and then still more work that went on. That was when we moved the recovery, and they were able to switch strictly to the investigative after that.
The reason why that took so long is essentially the third floor collapsed to the second floor, which collapsed to the first floor.
Mhm.
And obviously that made, going through the debris. Actually, an extended effort and operation. We're grateful to the McFit, Marin County Fire Investigation Team, which is a coalition of employees from various fire departments, both on the suppression side and from administration and prevention, who have interest and expertise in fire investigation, who become certified in fire investigation. We have 3 members, four members, I believe, on our staff. Larry Casero, who's the deputy fire marshal from the Kenfield Fire District, is the head of the McFit team. He is a very knowledgeable, experienced, well-qualified fire investigator. In fact, he's on a state team, so he gets called out to major incidents to lead or participate in fire investigations. And he was there every day, all day, basically meeting. So we're very grateful to him. He worked very hard, as well as the other investigators that participated. We're very grateful. Just about every agency in Marin, in fact, I will say that every agency in Marin County, including Skywalker Ranch Fire Brigade, participated in this incident either operationally or from an investigative standpoint. So, as Chief Bernard mentioned, when the second alarm goes, that brings in automatic aid from our neighboring agencies. And that's seamless, it's without delay. As mentioned before, I'm sure all of the agencies in Marin act as one for a major fire drill, trained together. The engines and trucks are equipped in similar fashion. We all operate out of a single dispatch center, so it's just a seamless response that it goes down without any delay whatsoever. So can't
All the
say.
radio communications are
Pardon
interoperable.
me? What's that?
All of the radio
Oh,
communications are
everybody's on
fully
the same
interoperable.
page, essentially. There's no communication difficulty whatsoever. It's all seamless. And so we can't say enough for all of the assistance that we receive.
Did anything, like, anything you can point to where there were any gaps?
Not that we identified right now. Nothing major other than, this was a unique, and I would say, I'll go back a little bit. Somebody asked me if this is the biggest fire I've ever had. It's not the biggest fire I've ever had. But I do have to say it's one of the most complicated fires ever. Usually, when we had a fire recovery, it's usually recovered for 12 hours. This one took us 4 days to recover. One of the bodies was actually in water. So the recovery with that, so we had to invoke extra skills around there. The other thing is that we had over 50 people that were housed this day. So you can't just say, hey, go to the bank and get the debit card and then go to DNB and get that. These folks don't have them. So a lot of it put on us to, and I'm not saying, I'm very careful to not, as a fire department, not mission creep and take everybody else's responsibility. But in this particular case, we rapidly had a situation where we need to take care of folks, even to identify the folks that were missing. So you have to imagine, in that particular area, I have about a 13,000 per square mile density. That's equivalent of the San Francisco standard right there on the density in that particular area. Now, it's a very small area, but it's union dense there. So it's a little bit different of tracking. We have multiple generations of families that live there that are shipboard. So 1 hour, and they're shipboard. So it could be sometimes during the daytime, they got that amount of density, because we can like that, it could be daytime, so constant changes. So there's no real tracking mechanism to do this. And most of those are sublet. So there's no tracking from the apartment manager. So yeah, there's 3 people live there. It doesn't work that way. It works like, there are potentially 9 people that live there, because there's 3 rooms and there's 3 people in each room living there. And it's being sublet, so that's where it became very complicated. I was supposed to quickly identified that we need to get these folks in one area to start a review and figure out who we were missing there. So that became very complex, and then, like I said, none of them had IDs or cell phones or anything like that. We had many people that literally jumped out the window to the canal onto the parking lot, so that's why it became very complex. The fire, we were able to put out about an hour and a half, local fire, it's just that everything else took that.
Yeah.
So,
You brought up a very good point, Chief, too. We failed to mention this, that a whole separate operation was taking place too, as the chief mentioned. We had to basically identify who all lived in this building. We found out, I mean, there was about 55 people,
there's actually turned out to be like 64 people that we actually housed.
64 people. So then what we needed to do was basically arrange for temporary accommodation. And so Queen Gardner and her team set up an evacuation center and shelter at the Alvaro Center, about a mile away. They set up an entire evacuation, overnight shelter, feeding, all the support services that go into place. So it was actually like, also, it was kind of like a disaster. There was a major earthquake and people were unhoused. Just obviously on a much smaller scale for this one building, but that's still a lot of people that we needed to transport over to the Alvaro Center. When you think about this, while the fire is taking place, we need to not only gather the people that live there who are now unhoused, some of which were injured and didn't realize it because the adrenaline was going so hard. We had to treat them. Some had to be transported. But then we had to transport everybody to Alvaro Center and set up this evacuation shelter. Queen Gardner and her team basically managed that side of it, along with the Red Cross, State Union, Salvation Army, Canal Alliance, supporting it as well. So this was, glad you mentioned all that, Chief, because that's a whole different side. That was an incident in itself. So this was, as I said earlier, this was a very unusual, out of the ordinary incident. Most apartment building fires, and we have several of those in San Rafael on a fairly regular basis. It's usually room and contents, or the apartment unit's gutted, but the rest of the building is fine. Those are our typical fires. You can hit it quickly and extinguish it. Sheetrock compartmentalizes. The building isn't sprinklered, at least the sheetrock compartmentalizes the fire. And that's what we would have expected in this case. This was not an old building, as buildings go. So we know it was full of sheetrock inside. So again, the spread of fire is just highly unusual.
And much better just parking from there. So we as fire department take responsibility of all that, not just, so we take a lead office on suppression, investigation, body recovery, and certainly the sheltering, and then being the initial conduit to get other resources there. So it was a daunting task, to say the least. But I'm very, very proud of our people. Obviously, most of our folks had already made some kind of had some kind of relationship with other organizations out in the county that would quickly be able to pick up the phone and say, we need this, and okay, we're on our way, got the deal. It wasn't like a question about it. It's wrong. We had resources from Sonoma County that dropped off shower unit there. We had dogs from both Oakland Fire Department and Middle Park Fire District that responded within at our request. And obviously every single fire department, he says in the county that also responded to our request for help. We're not allowed, but we definitely had a very complex issue where even, it wouldn't be complex on a larger fire department, but certainly we would definitely pass heavy on this one.
Just suppression within an hour and a half is pretty impressive.
Yeah, and
all the complexities of it.
Fire. So the fireboat did an amazing job.
Does the fireboat just pull the water out of the canal?
Mhm.
Is that, it doesn't have tanks on board, any for them?
Perfect. Probably the most perfect direction of getting any lives and fire lines was from the fireboat. So we used every single technical ability that we had on that fire. Our water rescue folks were the ones that went in and recovered the body covered. So, yeah,
So the investigation's still going on,
Correct.
so did you ever pinpoint a causation?
No.
Or maybe you can't tell us,
No.
you don't know?
no,
That's
no.
amazing.
It is, but again, part of the reason is there was a lack of good eyewitness accountability of like, where exactly did this fire start? We lacked that. And then we lacked any like surrounding video that really paints a good picture. Any eyewitness reports, as it was early in the morning, obviously, many people weren't up yet. And then the fact that really made it complicated is the roof collapses to the third floor collapses to the second floor collapses to the first floor. So now it's in there somewhere, right? Instead of being able to go up to the second floor, which is, damaged. It's all in a heap of rubble on the ground. So that's why this digging, and going through everything and locating the remains of the second victim took so long, because everything was collapsed.
And it's literally, we're getting debris out there in 5 gallons.
It's worried about further structural collapse.
You mentioned the building next door with stucco settings. Probably safe that building. Do we have building codes in areas of dense population? Because the canal is like apartment. That would, let's sort of say should require the exterior of the building to have retardant material or fireproof material? Or-
Not at this time. I mean, for all of the existing buildings we can now done, it's, whatever the approved construction materials are at that time, that it's recognized by the building code. And wood siding is a very common type of product that has been used. The codes now are going to get more restricted as far as exterior siding and roofs. So you will see that in the future, but for existing construction, no, a wood sided building was very common, typical, and meets code today would have met code back to.
Chief Bernard was answering your question about thermal. While you were doing that, I made a humorous comment that she sent it about. It'll be thermal right here next week. $199 on Amazon right now, it's a plug-in.
What happened while we were talking?
Yeah, really. What, no, who knew?
There any fallout from having truck in the first week with,
No, I mean, no, that was one of my original concerns there. They were it was basically seconds that they were apart from each other. And the truck just takes a little bit longer to get out the door. And they definitely were driven to do go on rescue mode, but with the amount of power, they couldn't do that. So they automatically wound up deploying a ladder type operation. So it helped also with dousing the fire further fast also. But that is a constant concern that I have, especially that district there. But it does seem like in this situation, but then absolutely encouraging. Within seconds that 150 TOR.
yeah, really about a fire, first view. It's, rescue people for it.
Yeah.
Okay,
Thank you.
just quickly,
Yes.
because that took a lot of time. Just moving through the report. September is Emergency Preparedness Month, and 2013 are engaged in social media outreach and other types of trainings and information provided. There's a resolution that either was read or will be read in the city council meeting on the 15th. On page 3, there's another EMS Save the Bacon Award. Another save, this is happening on a greater and greater frequency where medics are basically saving people that are in cardiac arrest. So our EMS battalion chief always wants to highlight that and call that out and recognize it. And they have this Save the Bacon Award where Her crew gets certificates and they get a pound of bacon.
We were speaking with Dave here before the meeting started, and I remember Chief Senate, I think it was a couple months ago where you were talking about the incident that happened with the doctor. From
Yeah,
Linda,
right.
who was on the bike and
Correct.
had cardiac and Dave was on chip, I think, at that
Yeah.
point, so. Interesting, unfortunate what happened to him subsequent to that. He had multiple additional cardiac events and.
Yeah, but you know, one thing I realized that we gave that. This doctor, yeah, he's really young. We gave him a second chance to close out stuff that he had in his life. So, and he had essentially what we wound up having is we call it terminal injuries to his heart after that happened, that he knew that happened. So that allowed him to spend time with his family. As a matter of fact, I will share this with you, and I usually don't share this type of stuff, but it really is credit to our folks in there. They actually responded to him multiple times on there after that. And they actually sat with him, talked with him, and he basically told him, I don't want to go to the hospital, I'm staying here with my family. And our folks respected that, they sat there and then talked to him and stuff like that, and totally respected that for that part of it, but I feel that that's a big part of this, we allow that to happen. I think most of us, if we die suddenly, we might like to think about, all the stuff that we left right that we didn't do. In this particular case, this allowed that gentleman to fix stuff, young kids, he probably did a lot of stuff with his kids, acknowledge things that they still were. When we died, there's a lot of stuff that happened on there. He was allowed to prepare for that to happen. So much credit goes to, while it was a sad situation on there, I also lived very dear to me that we allowed him to have that extra space of time to close out his family. He had young kids and stuff like that, and for them to be able to understand that process.
So he understood he had a moment.
Yes, he did.
Then my other question would be, are we doing something different? Is there new medications out there that we're using that becoming more successful?
Yeah, and the answer is yes. We are using we are more readily available, our responses are a lot faster. Our EKG monitors are biphasic now, it's not just the shocking and not just on one side, it comes from both sides, so that's all new technology. The medication are a lot better. The way we do the traditional, we would have to find an IV. A lot of times we're not finding IV. You go into the intramural through your bone, just below your kneecap. So we're not even messing around with trying to find an IV site. You're going in there. So there's a lot more knowledge in doing really aggressive CPR. Back in the day, we do CPR and do best. Well, a lot of times we just, as long as the first firefighter is on there is pumping on the chest as fast as possible, get some of that circulation of blood through there. And it was less about getting the breath, but more of getting the little bit of oxygenated blood in there going through the system, to make sure that the heart's pumping. So there's a lot of that stuff that's happening. And our folks, just like I said, we won that award a while back where we found it about cardiac and stroke stuff. It's just our folks are good at that stuff. They really are into that. By the same token, in the city of San Rafael, there's a cardiac arrest when there's finally one into the ambulance. Pretty much everybody else in the county responds with 2 into ambulance. We feel we can do just as much good with one single unit company with 5 people on board rather than additional 10 people, about 8 people on our cardiac arrest. So we will bring them in if it's a large case or something, but basically we're very solid in how we enact with cardiac arrest. Since we do get it for the people, also.
Thanks, Chief. There's some EMS stats that Chief Hatfield provided alongside the picture for the month of August. So we'll continue to provide those, and I'll put them in a more user friendly fashion on the next report. This was kind of a last minute add. I apologize for the print being so small. On the bottom of page 3, on to page 4 is just a quick overview of the code adoption process that occurs every 3 years. Cities and counties adopt the latest California building and fire code package. So the fire department adopts the 2025 California Fire Code. We've been using the 2022 edition. The council will adopt the 2025 edition probably in November. A new document that's out for the first time this year is the Wildland Urban Interface Code. What the California Building Standards Commission has done is they've compiled all of the requirements, the code requirements that were in the California Building Code and the California Fire Code, and they've compiled them into one document, the Wildland Urban Interface Code. So the document's new, the codes are existing, some have been refined and modified, but that's a new code for 2025. The council will review and consider adopting.
That available online?
For a fee. I mean, you can get a synopsis of it, but it's a for-profit code-making organization, so.
That's, do we have a fire marshal anymore, or that kind of,
Falls on me.
they fall on you? The line, it falls.
You're not busy.
There's a bit.
So the chief's the one that goes to prevention prison if something happens, it's not me. It's me. So, it's, the code adoption process is a heavy lift. It takes, 2 to 3 months to compile all the information, organize the staff reports, write the ordinance. It needs to go to the city council on 2 separate occasions, one for the introduction of the ordinance, and then a public hearing follows. In San Rafael, we do it for the city. We also have to do a completely separate, nearly identical process from Meridian, because they're a separate agency, so it's a duplication of it. So it's a heavy lift. I'm looking forward to its completion and adoption in both agencies here later this year.
And not that it's long, this conversation, but on the Bowie code specifically, there's. Chapter 5 in there that has to be specifically with building materials. And one of the things that we've not, essentially, they've given us the responsibility to pass that. However, we're not building, I mean, somebody else is under, so it's kind of put us in this weird predicament right now, because we're gonna approve it. Stand on it, but the reality is that it's a building official that actually has to invoke those type of things in there. So we're walking to a fine line where we're gonna agree to it. However, we don't have responsibility for it. So we've been working with the city, but they currently don't have a building official. It is a position that they hired out temporarily. But he's supportive of it, but once again, I'm not sure to what, we're experimenting, we don't know what this is gonna be
We're
like.
flying into uncharted territory. What they did was they took all of the building standards that apply to structures in the Louis zone that was contained in chapter 7A of the California Building Code. 2022 edition. Well, they pulled that out and they put it in the 2025 edition of the Louis Code. So our concern is they pulled it out of the building code, put it in the Louis Code, but it's really still a building department's responsibility for enforcement. So we're still trying to navigate through these uncharted waters as to who's going to be enforcing these provisions that are now chapter 5 in the Louis Code. They were chapter 7A in the building code. Hopefully, we have a very cooperative building department will say, no, don't problem, we'll take care of that, or they could say, you got it. So.
Because when the place burns down and they're rebuilding it, they're not gonna look to the fire department to ask about how do we build, they're gonna call the building code. They're gonna call
They
building,
get their permits for the building department.
right, and so,
We hope that some of that responsibility will fall on us, because it's the fire department that's gonna run the code adoption. But maybe if they big fire.
We asked for the building department has to adopt a suite of codes. There's the building code, there's the mechanical code, there's the plumbing code, there's the electrical code, there's the green building code. And probably 3 or 4 more, so they adopt a suite of codes in their code adoption. We asked that they include the Louis Code in that, so that chapter 5 had fallen under their authority, they did not do that. They didn't say, no, we're not gonna do that, it just kind of came around too late. They were already kind of far along in their adoption process. And so that became kind of an awkward moment.
is there a different geographical area within San Rafael? For the implementation of this code,
We have a Louis zone, we have a Louis boundary, a Louis map,
right?
which
So,
we actually hope to expand.
so is that, you're gonna expand it?
Yeah, we hope to expand it to Louis more extended.
Didn't we get one say all San Rafael was going to be handled as Louis?
For vegetation,
Okay.
vegetation, but we're hoping to also have the building standards apply to, with the exception of possibly a defined downtown core. Maybe. Created.
So there's two ways to do that, either where you expand a WUI to, we go to encompass the whole city. Or resolution, say there's some components of the WUI code that we vote on all the city.
Yeah, because if you're looking at a structure in downtown San Rafael, they're gonna say, is that in a wildfire zone? If you're expanding, then my world says, look, it's in a wildfire zone. We don't want it in a wildfire zone.
Yeah.
We're fine, because we're building it.
No, but well aware.
But you're saying we want more
Well,
protection.
we're looking to exclude the downtown zone. And
Well,
it
yeah.
is because a lot of the new buildings that are gonna be constructed in the downtown area. A lot of the proposed mid-rise and high-rise buildings that are now being considered, some are now moving forward. Buildings of that magnitude contain all the elements.
Yeah.
That are in
Yeah.
the moving code anyway, so it's not really a problem. Windows, siding, roof, everything else, vegetation, so. Not too much of a concern. So we can create this island probably knowing that. It won't matter anyway, because anything built in that zone will meet the equivalent of the wildland urban interface construction standards.
That's fascinating.
Yeah, and I, to be honest, I'd rather not mess with the WUI zone. I'd rather more the resolution saying we're using WUI zone standards and then both of them citywide or whatever area in there. Because at the end, if I look at it, and now I'll go back to, I'm sorry, but this is really important. When Chief Gray was here, Chief Gray had this vision on how the whole city was vulnerable to a WUI fire. With that spirit, I'm gonna continue with that spirit. I might be told no a bunch of times, but I'm continuing the spirit that says, if we're gonna build or add windows or anything like that, they should be legal citywide. Because the potential is there for us as a vulnerable city, that it would be the thing that makes San Antonio so beautiful and also so vulnerable is vegetation. So we don't want to necessarily get rid of vegetation, create it in the city. We want to be able to manage that, have top structures and building materials that will withstand that potential release type of thing. So that's the spirit that I'm going.
Yeah.
How do you deal with the CSA, CSA 13?
That's not within our jurisdiction, so that's the county.
It is, but we're still for you,
Yes.
so.
Yeah, we have the authority and responsibility to do fire, and after that, that's about it. It's, so I've had several conversations with county fire about this, and basically, even if we had to if we had to do fire watch for a while there, that's not a responsibility. In theory, the county Indian can come in and do fire watch. It's our responsibility to put the fire out, and they basically
It's all saying of each,
yeah.
the state responsibility.
Correct.
Are all these cities in Marin County experiencing the same challenge with their zone changes?
Everybody in the state that have those, we are probably a little bit more-
Like Greenbrier?
Green Bay, part of Green Bay is unincorporated county, part of it's city of San Rafael. Part of it's within the Canfield Fire Protection. So there's, the way this county is carved up is amazing.
Why don't you have one county fire department, which
I agree. I want to be the chief of apparatus or something. So, yeah, where did I go? I want to get the cheapest stuff. I don't want to be the cheapest people, but just want to use the cheapest stuff. That way nobody back up.
Yeah. That's probably the harder part.
Yeah.
Of Maine.
And so now I'd like to defer to Chief Bernard, who's gonna give us a. Yes.
Center Fell's chief. So is that, it just said ratifying.
Saves on the server, right?
All our equipment. So what you have in front of you is I put together this summary. Kind of down for other sheets. We have a total of about 30 or so vehicles in our fleet, plus there's some trailers and things that are not listed on the fleet. So I broke it down for you. So at the top of the page, One there you have our ambulances. This includes our reserve ambulances, our frontline ambulances. Next down you have all of our equipment, which include type 1, type 3, type 6 engines. Below that, you have our 2 ladder trucks. Bottom of the page, you have our battalion vehicles. You flip over to the next page, you have our deputy chief and chief vehicles. Then below that, you have some of our other utility vehicles, our training vehicle, some of our other specialty equipment, such as the fireboat. Our fire mechanic has a mobile repair rig that's listed on it. And at the very bottom of the page is the new news that I get to unveil to you. That's the new engine 51 that was expected at the Pierce plant in Appleton. That's a week and a half ago. And it's due to be shipped out from Appleton here any day now, and we'll be arriving in Sacramento at the dealer there, where the dealer prep and some work, some radios installed, and a couple of little things done. What's that?
How do we get here?
They drive it.
Oh,
Yeah,
So
Yeah.
it's a Pierce.
yes. So that will be arriving, sometime in the next few days. I'm expecting it at dealer, probably be there, I would guess about a month, so. They'll be delivered here. Our apparatus committee will get a hold of it. They will start loading new equipment on it, upfitting it and getting it ready to go in service. When that happens, we'll put out an announcement. We'll do a cushion ceremony, and we will deliver that to the station for some long.
Which you know, it's something like that. Wow.
This apparatus, we got it for a bargain because we were able to use some papers and get it for under $100. So part of the work that we did is working with the finance department of the city as far as being able to prepay upfront, which is a very significant discount for that. Particularly given the wait times that are involved with the apparatus. And over the year, that one was worked for years ago. So yes, and with current wait times on apparatus right now are about 4.5 years. So we were able to get this in at a good time. The delivery time is 3 years. And some of it is because of the simplicity of our specification. This is a very good, high quality rig, but it is also very, very simple and very efficient as well. In the current engine that's at engine 51 will get cycled out to an outline. I think there'll be a trickle down effect that will happen with our oldest reserve engine that will go out of service. Once we get through that trickle down. Just giving you an overview of the report. You can see, our front line, some of our aspects of our front line are doing very well. Our ambulance fleet is in really good shape. We've built the last couple of years. We've put a total of 4 ambulances in service. One of our newest ambulances that sitting right there, that's Medic 56. And if you look at those mileage figures, we're actually going to be rotating these ambulances here pretty soon in order to balance the mileages out, since the Medic 52, Medic 57, they gather mileage at a very rapid rate. So we're going to be moving the ambulances around in order to balance the mileage out so we get the longevity out of number 60.
Stations, generate the highest mileage?
52, 57. Those ambulances are fully staffed 24/7, where this is a cross staff ambulance, so all volume.
Yeah, it says it's based on.
Yeah. So our ambulance fleet is very good. Our reserves are a little old, but they're still serviceable. Looking back down at our engine fleet, especially with the new engine and routes, we're pretty good condition. It will need constant maintenance in terms of constantly staying on top of these orders and keeping on top of the purchasing of that, especially with the long lead times. In order to keep those numbers down. We have another engine which has already been ordered, that was ordered 2 years ago, and that will arrive about this time next. So, and it's a similar spec engine to what we're seeing.
Are we still ordering 1250s?
These are all 1500 BPM pumps for the type of.
And how much water are they?
500 gallons.
Can I address the commission, let them know that all fire engine orders are custom orders. It's not like you can go to a dealership and say, I'll take that one. Because all departments have specific needs and uniqueness, so that's why it takes so long, and the pre-planning takes a while.
Yeah.
We always buy them brand new, that we can, because of that reason, we can't
Yeah,
Pick one
we
up
get
and-
into a lot of problems with used apparatus. One of them being is that used apparatus will cost, and it's a very significant cost. With the used rig, you're getting something that's not necessarily spec to our particular needs. Marin County is actually one of the hardest counties to purchase fire apparatus for. The apparatus manufacturer will tell you. The reason is it's because we put a lot of demands as far as what we want. And we put a lot of restrictions on them as far as the size of the vehicle, the height of the height, length, width, angle of approach, angle of departure, which affects how it goes up and down hills, power demands, everything. So it's a very demanding spec of what we want. And by the way, we want it at a discounted price available too. So it's a very hard area for them to spec design vehicles for. And so there's a lot of regional specs that go into that that are very specific. The other problem with the used apparatus is that for the amount of money that you still wind up spending is that there's an expectation of spending that much money, that how much longevity you're gonna get, and as the rigs get older, they become hard to get parts for, and that's where we have a little bit of a pinch point with our fleet, is usually with the reserve fleet. As it gets older, it gets harder and harder to find parts. Our ladder truck fleet is a good example of this. You can see that we have a 2001 that's still, our reserve truck, our 75-foot steel dumpster that Commissioner Waterbury remembers. That vehicle is a good example of kind of what we run into, that we don't use a lot, but when we do use it, things break on it, and parts are difficult. A couple of years ago, we had to replace the flywheel on it that had stripped out on it, and it took a nationwide search that lasted over a month to find a flywheel that could go on the truck, because they're just not waiting.
Where's the maintenance done? Is it here in the base, or is it at a corporate yard?
So one of the most important employees, in my opinion, for our fleet is our mechanic, Dominic Doug Wilson. He works out of the corporation yard down in Auburn Public Works. And he is a fire mechanic, so he's specifically certified for working with fire pumps and air and full-time employee for us. We keep him very, very busy. But he's also very, very good at what he does as well too. And so part of that is we've sent in, he came to us with a lot of these certifications, but we continue to maintain certifications with a lot of our fleet being a Pierce fleet. He's certified with a lot of Pierce repairs, so we don't have to send things back to the viewership, which takes us a lot of time.
And where's that corporate yard located? Is that the one right by 50?
No, the corporation yard down there, kind of down near the base of the NFL Bridge.
Behind Home Depot, they're like.
Oh, like that, okay.
One other point to bring up how the industry has changed. 15 years ago, it took 6 months to get a fire engine delivered. Now it's up to 4+ years. There's been a lot of consolidation of manufacturers. So San Francisco running the problem of beat up engines and not being able to replace them faster than they're being taken out of service.
Well, you remember how they are. Go to LA City or LA County and say, what do we got, building? And they would have like 15 trucks, fire engines, and we would just piggyback. And I know that the people are, we need philosophy with it, something to make for LA City, LA County. And that would do stuff.
Yeah, and we have done some piggybacking. There's some of the vehicles that are on this list that are based on that piggyback idea. Our current engines are a little bit more tailored to the specifics of our area. They are a little smaller than what they are. We've had a lot of political pressure just in terms of making sure that our rigs are not continuing to grow in size, because the streets don't ever change in size. Things are just becoming more congested. So with a little bit of design work done on the specs, I think we've been able to kind of push things down just a little bit. Yeah, and we're not talking big differences, but a couple inches here and there makes a difference between hitting the parked car or not. So,
But Chief, can you talk briefly about how emissions are making the rigs bigger, and that's the challenge that you have?
yeah, so emissions are one of those things, and that's people asking, well, why are the fire apparatus getting so expensive? So as emission standards change, what happens is that the engine manufacturer or the motor manufacturer has to change the engine. The apparatus manufacturer now has to engineer the cab, the chassis, and everything around that. So things that were not on fire engines 20 years ago, such as diesel particulate filters and EPF tanks and things like that for all for emissions, or things that are now part of fire engine. Those have to go somewhere and take up space. And so with that, he creates a recreation of how the body's configured and how things fit together within a smaller space than what we used to fit it. And so there's a lot of engineering time that goes into that. So it creates a lot more complexity just because of how framed things are underneath there, which makes things kind of interesting for our mechanic, but it also is a lot of what generates a lot of that rising cost for fire apparatus because of all the engineering that has to be done every few years. The heavy truck industry has the benefit of when they re-engineer for these emission standards, they become like Freightliner or Peterbilt, like that. They can spread that across, the 10,000 units that they're producing. Fire service produces, 2,000-3,000. So that's why you're seeing the rapid increase in cost.
How about any push for electric
I would
vehicles?
the same thing.
I think about that. I think about a 500-gallon tank.
So there's a couple of electric products that are out there that some of the manufacturers that are maybe Pierce being one of them. And they have different pros and cons in terms of what each one of those manufacturers have. The biggest challenge is that the technology is still relatively new for fire apparatus. And there's going to be a few more of them out there, but it's still kind of new. We're just kind of not in a position for what the investment is of wanting to be on the experimental end of this. The electrification of the fire apparatus, just from a cost standpoint, you're talking double basically. And there's a lot more complexity. We also don't currently have the facilities for doing electric vehicle maintenance as well. Which is
Well, from the operational side, you go up to like Cubs Fire in Santa Rosa, those fire engines are running steady for a week. So you can't stop and charge them. You can refuel them while they're running. So if you have an extended operation, it becomes an issue.
So some of the different manufacturers have a different way of dealing with some of the problems. The Pierce product is very, very different from the Rosenbauer product. So you probably have seen those advertised, very regularly advertised out there in the fire service. But they have a different approach with different pros and cons. So in terms of whether electrification is in the future, obviously that's the direction that things are going in. My view is kind of taking us a wait and see approach and see what pans out as the technology improves. But one of the things that I've been following it's a company that's producing commercial trucks up in Canada that's just started production. And they've taken a completely different approach that I think is a little bit more sustainable. Where they're designed more like an electric locomotive in terms of being diesel electric, where you still have a diesel engine that's running a battery that's been running diesel electric drivetrain. And they're still a lot more efficient than what you can get straight electric stuff is, just because you have the constant power source of the diesel engine, which is very clean and efficient because it's just running at a constant RPM as to going the up and downs of a typical vehicle. So there's a lot of technology and things that are going on. Each of these things that we'll have to keep an eye on. As part of that challenge is the long lead times in terms of what we're getting. I listed again some of the utility vehicles and stuff like that. Again, it's being the maintenance man or the fleet manager, it's a constant chore trying to keep on top of things. As you can see, our battalion vehicles are vehicles that are coming up need for replacement. So we'll be shooting for trying to get replacements for those vehicles here very soon. Getting a replacement ladder truck is also highly on the list of things that acquired, particularly with the vertical development coming from the community. So that's the other part of the challenge, is factoring in the lead time for where the development going and making sure that we're ordering in anticipation of the development. So
Chief, can you discuss about the storage problem that we have too for the relief vehicles?
Yeah, so one of the challenges that we have for our fleet is we have parking spaces for pretty much all our frontline vehicles. A lot of our reserve fleet, we're a little bit pinched for space. One of the vehicles that we're having a real hard time trying to find space for right now is our antique fleet, which is not even listed on the sheet here. So we have the 1938 American France, which is currently that station 52 will be going back to 519 4th Street there pretty soon. But that's going to be going away for as a facility. We also have an old antique ladder park that takes up a considerable amount of space that we need to find storage space. But that's kind of one of our problems. A lot of our reserve fleet is stored down at the courtyard, and just partially because we have a city facility there, and it's also quick access. So when crews are swapping out for maintenance, that they can just go swap straight into reserve down at the courtyard. And I'll also we just throw out there, just in terms of if you're ever interested in putting down there and show off the fleet maintenance facilities, we've done a lot of work there, particularly with our mechanic down there and developing our fleet program. And so we've actually been on the end of having consultants come to us and look for ideas on how to develop their fleet maintenance program. So it's a lot of work.
It's up to showing. Who does it type 6? I mean, when I left it, we went to type 4.
It's twice that it's type 3 type now. It's type 6 is it's a wildland specific engine. It's got a 300 gallon water tank on it. It's 125 GPM pump on it. So and this one's mounted on a Dodge 550 chassis. So it's heavier than a pickup, but a lot lighter than what even a pickup. So in terms of mobility, I think just in terms of historical reference, type that Renwood had at one time on that size chassis. Yeah, it was about that size. It was like small. Our type 6, it doesn't carry any structural stuff on, where type 3 still has some structural firefighting capabilities on. Type 6 is just strictly wildland. It was last employed in a different incident.
That's what I first saw, so you mentioned it. Type 6. I've been on for a long time.
Yeah, they have some tremendous advantages just in terms of the mobility, particularly getting up onto the fire roads and the spots. The limitation is how much equipment and gear that you carry on. There's no structural gear. The other thing that they're very useful for is if we do need a mobile resource in town, we're going to be deploying it here next week. And still, so we'll be deploying that as a quick response vehicle for any use to set fire. So medical things.
Is it a 4-wheel drive?
Yeah.
Where's the 751?
That's it. So it's just part of the numbering system. So it's designated that is out of station 51. And 7 designated.
So that concludes the chief's report, unless the chief has anything else you want to share.
Thank you very much, all three chiefs. Any other business? Then we will adjourn at 5:26. Thank you.
Thank you.